Hey everybody, thank you for clicking this video to learn about ABC, or Advanced Biostructural Correction. I'm Dr. Patrick Bain, owner and operator of Springback Chiropractic in Surprise, Arizona. Let's talk ABC. Alright, so let's talk about ABC, okay? But first, before we do that, we have to talk about what is it that a good chiropractor is working on. It's not the whole, neck pain, back pain. Those are easy to get rid of. What you're really working on is what's called the nervous system, okay? The nervous system is in control of everything, okay? It is your connector from your brain out to every organ, every cell, and every function of the body, okay? And you have two different systems within your nervous system, the autonomic nervous system and the central nervous system, okay? This is the autonomic nervous system depicted here, okay? It's comprised of a parasympathetic and a sympathetic division, okay? Parasympathetic just means it's the rest and digest, slow everything down, slow the heart rate, right? Increase the digestion. Sympathetic is the booster, okay? You see something scary, you see a scary movie, now your heart rate goes up, you start sweating, okay? That's the sympathetic. So your nervous system controls all kinds of functions: heart rate, sweating, bowel and bladder, sex organs, kidneys, liver, the whole thing, a whole slew of things, everything, okay? The second system that we discussed right now, the central nervous system, and this is composed of your brain and your spinal cord, okay? So this is an MRI of an actual person. Here is your spine, okay, and here is the brain, and here is the spinal cord that's housed within the vertebrae, okay? This is the more important system, and you're going to learn why that is in a bit, okay? But the central nervous system is in charge of all communication, from the brain to the body and the body to the brain, okay? So when you disrupt that communication, you're going to get symptoms, okay? You're going to get sickness, and you're going to get a loss of solidarity. So what's the original idea of chiropractic, okay? Well, the original idea of chiropractic started 100 years ago, and what they said was, okay, we believe that bones misalign in all types of these different directions, and that they end up causing pressure on the exiting nerves, okay, leading to a decrease in communication, in function, and thus a decrease in health, right? Because the nervous system controls the organs, and if you don't have optimal communication to your organs, right, it's not going to function properly, and then you'll have less health. Okay, so that's the original idea. So what did they come up with to fix this issue? Okay, they came up with what they call the adjustment, which is the movement of these misaligned bones by hand in order to relieve the pressure off the nerves, in order to increase the communication, increase the function, and then improve the health, okay? So chiropractic has been always about the health of the individual, okay? Not just this whole pain focus that it is now. But things have changed. There's been a movement away from this idea, and here's what they now believe for the vast majority of regular chiropractors out in the field. They believe that there's a lack of range of motion in an area, plus pain, and that equates to you need to adjust it, okay? The second thing is that they look at a bone and they say, okay, maybe it's rotated this way. Well, we need to undo that. Or they look at and they see you have a scoliosis, which is just a large curve to the side of your spine, and they'll say, okay, this large curve of your spine went maybe say to the right, went in this direction. Let's push that curve right in the opposite direction to what we believe is ideal. Okay, they call that mirror adjusting. And I'm going to talk about later about why that is incorrect, okay, how you cannot predict what the body needs to do. You just need to do what the body can't do. There's a huge difference there. So here's what regular chiropractors do. And this is the vast majority. I would say this is at least over 90-some-odd%. They lay the patient face down, they find a stuck and painful area, and they push it forward. Okay, this is key. Remember this. They push it forward. Okay, and then they may lay on one side, they'll crack your low back all the way up. We'll do the same thing on the other side, and then they'll lay on your back and they'll crack both sides of your neck, and then poof, out the door you go, and we'll see you next week. Okay, You can't fix a root cause issue doing that. Okay, you never will. I'm sorry, unless you got really lucky, you never will. And what you'll learn today is that this direction of moving bones forward is wrong. It's the absolute wrong direction. And within chiropractic, okay, here's another issue, is that you have hundreds of named special techniques. ABC is included, that's a named technique, okay? But what connects every other technique, okay, and what makes ABC unique is that no matter what the name of the technique is, they always adjust bones forward. I've only found one technique that doesn't adjust bones forward, but they only adjust one bone in the neck. So they're always going to be bouncing back and forth between symptoms and then adjusting that same bone, and they're never going to get to the root causes of the issue. Okay, but what connects all of these other named techniques is they always adjust forward. Okay, so here's why this doesn't make sense. As you age, which direction does your body begin to curl? As you get older, do you start curling backwards? No, it's very obvious that you curl forwards. That's why they invented the walker, right? People get so curled forward, right, that they need a walker to be able to move. So this is an actual patient's spine on an x-ray, and you can see, look how forward she is. Yes, she's elderly, but the elderly are only an accentuation of what we are when we were younger. It's just a larger accumulation of the same issue. So her ear is over here, it should be all the way back here. Very, very forward. So all these different chiropractors adjust bones forward, it just makes no sense. Why would you push a bone that's already obviously forward more forward? It makes no sense. So here's what ABC's discovered. If a bone of the spine misaligns forward, there's no muscle or combination of muscles capable of pulling that bone back into place. Remember, you've got muscles in your back that can turn bones left and right, that can flex them left and right, that can pull them forward and down, and you have muscles that can pull them down in the back, but you have no muscle that could pull a bone that's gone perfectly forwards, right? Or not perfectly, but that's gotten knocked forwards. You have no muscle that can perfectly pull that back into place. It's the only way that your body can't fix a vertebra. Okay? Secondly, there's scar tissue, just like you build in muscle, that builds within the spine, okay, on the inside, and it binds the spinal cord and the inside of the vertebra. Okay, we'll show you that in a bit. Number 3 is the main cause of symptoms. Even in the case of disc herniations, which most people believe is a pressure on a nerve issue, it's not. It's actually the tension that's built within the spinal cord as the bones misalign forwards and the scar tissue that becomes built. Okay, what we have here is what I call the breakdown cycle. Okay, this is the combination of all these factors and how it all interplays with each other. So you get the forward bones, which leads to the tension in the spinal cord and the brainstem, which leads to you having symptoms. Your body then builds scar tissue within the spine because it can't fix this issue, right? So it wants to stabilize it, so it just basically, hunkers down for the long run. You then get bone spurs or osteophytes because of all the pressure that happens on the vertebra with the forwardness. And eventually, when you get elderly and you have low bone density, okay, you get what we call a compression fracture or a collapse of the vertebra. So let's just look at what this looks like. So this is very obviously forward, right? And you can see right here, this is a very large anchorage point for a forward bone, and you can see because this one went forward, every single one above that now is forward, right? Even though we maybe not went in here and knocked this one forward, but because the foundation is forward, everything above it goes with it, okay? And what that creates is what we call tension in the spinal cord, okay? This is a depiction of what the spinal cord is doing, right? Because we know that right in this canal, the spinal cord is housed, okay? And what we found in studies is that this spinal cord becomes tensioned and then becomes dragged over the back of the vertebrae, which is what causes the majority of the tension, okay? The vertebrae are literally an anchor point that gets pulled over. The spinal cord literally pulls over it and then creates tension, right? So if we do a cross section and we cut the spinal cord in half, right, we looked at it, here's what it would look like normally, right, non-tensioned. But then here's what happens is it becomes hyper elongated and it shrinks, right? And if you forgot what the spinal cord looks like in a real spine, Remember, here it is. Here's the brain, here's the spinal cord, and there's the vertebrae. So if these vertebrae go forward, right, you get a pulling on your brain stem and a shrinking of the diameter of your spinal cord, which causes the symptoms, right? And each individual is different, so we can't predict what symptoms you're going to get, right? But here's just a very large amount of symptoms that we have found are connected to this issue, and there's a heck of a lot more, okay? But this is what happens, right? Now you get the symptoms. But remember, now that you've got the forward bones, the body can't fix the forward bones, so now it wants to stabilize and create the scar tissue, and also because there's just a lot of inflammation, you build the scar tissue. But the revolutionary thing is that it's on the inside of the spine. So these are this is actual human spine that's been cut in half. These are the vertebra, okay, both sides here. This is the spinal cord, okay, and right here you can see this is the scar tissue, okay, that binds your spinal cord to the inside of your vertebra, and that's why people get so much more stiff the older you get. It's a combination of the scar tissue, the forward bones, and all the bone spurs, right, that we're going to show you right now. So here's another x-ray, very forward, okay, and right here, okay, you see all these little bird beaks. That's your body building actual bone, attempting to fuse your vertebrae here because there's so much pressure, right? When this goes forward and gravity pushes, gravity pulls you down here, okay, you get tons of pressure right at the front of the vertebra. Okay, and people say, well, I'm not elderly, I don't look like this, I don't have a spine this forward. Okay, but remember, the elderly are just an accentuated version of you. Okay, so we see bone spurs like this starting in people in their 20s and in their 30s, okay, and it just continues to get worse and they continue to go more forward. Okay, so just because yours doesn't look like this now doesn't mean it's not on its way. And many times we'll see the signs very, very early, and we can look at posture, okay, which we'll see at the end what that looks like. We can look at your posture and know that this is happening even before you build these bone spurs. And eventually, right, when you get low bone density, when you're older, right, from a accumulation of different factors, okay, the actual vertebra, you just get so much pressure and there's such little bone density there that the vertebra literally collapses. And so this vertebra, you can see it's just a little teeny sliver, okay? It should be this big, it's just a little sliver now, okay? And what that does is now it makes you even more forward, more tension. I mean, if you look here, this individual's spinal cord is literally right here and it's pulling over this, right? You can imagine it's running right here and it's getting pulled over this very acute angle, okay? That's going to cause a lot of symptoms and probably a lot of pain and a lack of function, okay? And then because of these compression fractures and degeneration and all this accumulation of different factors, it creates even more bones that are forward, and you just keep going through the cycle and getting worse and worse and worse. But luckily, with the discovery of ABC, you can not only stop this process, but you can reverse it in the vast majority of cases. Okay, so here's the solution. Everybody else in chiropractic, physical therapy, whoever's doing, spinal adjustments, is moving the bones forwards. So in ABC, we do the exact opposite. We move the bones backwards. Okay, that's a huge key. We do the literal opposite of what everyone else is doing. And because of that, we get different results. The second thing we do is full body stretches that releases that scar tissue within the spine that we discussed, which also decreases the tension on the spinal cord and the brain stem. So that's why you get people with disc herniations, okay? People with disc herniations, right? If you have a little herniation here, that's why in the studies that they've done, the size of the herniation has no correlation to the symptomatology. And the reason that is, and this is the missing piece of the puzzle that they don't have, is that the difference is how tensioned is the spinal cord, because if you have a very tensioned spinal cord, it's going to pull over that herniation, and that's what causes the symptoms. Okay? So this is what happens now when you do ABC on people and you move the bones backwards and you get rid of the scar tissue, okay? When you do the opposite of what everyone else does, right? So these individuals, all they were told to do is to breathe in, breathe out, relax, let their body slump, and this is what they look like before, and this is what they look like about 10 minutes after. And this is typical. I mean, you can look at all these different patients, whether they're young or whether they're older, right? They all get these similar results, okay? They pop up. And people say, well, I've seen posture pictures with other techniques or that, but the problem is nobody who takes posture photos like this takes them relaxed. ABC is the only one that tells people to shut the muscles off and fully relax. Everyone else is taking a fully compensated picture where they're not relaxing any of these muscles in the back, right? All these compensating muscles, because when a bone goes forward, your back spasms all these muscles back here to pull you backwards. So if you're holding that position, yeah, your posture is going to look better than it is. But when you tell people to relax, the truth really shows. So this is very typical. These aren't doctored photos. These are average patients of all different ages who get these results.